welcome back to another episode of In the Kitchen with Jen. In today's episode, we're going to be making royal icing, which is perfect for decorating cookies, for using as a glue when you're making stuff like gingerbread houses or attaching things to fondant cakes, or anything you need to harden up like flowers. Let's go. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. In a bowl here, I have 4 cups of powdered sugar, also known as icing sugar, and 3 tablespoons of meringue powder. So I have them all combined, all ready to go in here. So I'm gonna put them in my mixing bowl. I'm gonna attach my paddle. Woo! Watch out for the icing sugar cloud. All right, so that's in my bowl. So the next thing I'm gonna add is 5 tablespoons of water. And that's all the ingredients that there is for this recipe. It's only 3 ingredients to make this icing. So I'm gonna put this down. I'm gonna start it on low to prevent another icing sugar cloud. And when it gets more combined, I'll turn up the mixing speed. So I'm gonna turn my mixing speed up now. And I don't want to over whip this, I just want to whip it until it starts to get a little bit fluffier. And again, don't over whip this, so you just want to whip it until it holds stiff peaks. So that's like a little too runny yet. I'm gonna actually scrape down the bowl. And then I'm gonna whip it up again. So I'm gonna let that go for about 2 minutes. So I'm gonna set my timer, and then we'll come back and check it. Okay, so 2 minutes is up. We're gonna check this. And that is perfect. It's forming a stiff peak and staying where we want it to go. So about 2 minutes of mixing time, but it turned out perfectly. You see it's nice and glossy and white and nice and stiff for piping. So now you want to store this in an airtight container, and it's good for a couple days before it starts to separate. So I would tend to make this up right before you want to use it. If you have to pipe the next day, it should still be okay, but you might have to re-whip it a little bit. But more than a few days and it starts to come apart. So when you're working with it, make sure you're keeping it covered, because when it's exposed to air, it does start to harden up. So make sure that if you're keeping it in your bowl right now and you're ready to use it right now, just take a damp paper towel and lay it over the top of the bowl to keep the moisture in, or a plastic wrap. Or again, keep it in an airtight container, any icing that you're not currently using. Hey guys, just some tips I forgot to add when I was actually making the icing. So first one being, when you're setting up your bowl and equipment, make sure there is no grease on anything whatsoever. So if you've recently made like a standard buttercream or something, make sure that all of the oil has been taken off all of that equipment. So if there's any grease, your icing's not gonna whip up properly. Secondly, you can use a hand mixer to make this royal icing. It's just gonna take a lot longer. I did mention it briefly during the video, but make sure you're storing this in an airtight container, and you are going to have to re-whip it if it's been sitting for a bit before you use it. If you do make decorations out of it and they've hardened up, store those as well in an airtight container, and then put them in a dark place, so inside a cupboard or something, out of the sunlight, to prevent fading. Do not put this icing in the fridge or the freezer, because the extra moisture will disintegrate your decorations. So if you're wondering how to use this icing, I do have a tutorial coming up on how to pipe on cookies with royal icing, so you can see some piping skills there. So stay tuned for that video coming up next week. And thanks so much again for joining me for another In the Kitchen with Jen. Have an amazing day, everybody. Bye. Hello, Coda. My dog has come to visit me. Brief interlude while I give my dog a treat. Coda, don't walk under the camera. I don't know where I was. And if it's been sitting for a bit, you're gonna wanna re-whip it before you use it. So store it in an airtight, Oh, Jen.